Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. I'm Jumbo Jems here with you today doing a pack to page. So we've got a lovely Crown Zenith booster pack here, and what I'm going to do is open it, try not to spoil what cards are in there, and then once we're done we're going to draw them all. So just 3 to the back, get rid of the energy, and we've got Slidazzle, Maytang, an energy switch, Skither or Skyther, a Pokeball, Yungos, Cherubi, Execute, another Yungos but reverse hollow, and then a Zacian V-Star. Zacian, I've never really heard anyone say that out loud. So I'm just going to grab some cases for our beautiful VMAX. I don't think it's worth much, about $2 or $3, but I do that a lot. So we've got 2 Yungos, sorry about my pronunciation, Skither, Execute, and Maytang, Cherubi, and Slidazzle. So I've just done a quick paper sketch to get my spacing, and now I've just made a tracing of that so I can play with the sizes and placements a bit more. So obviously we have our 7 Pokemon: Zacian, Skither, Yungos, Execute, and Salazzle, and then Maytang and Cherubi. So I'm just playing around with the spacing now so that I can get to a more detailed sketch. So here we go with our detailed sketch. As for lining, I think Zacian will be the most time consuming because he is quite detailed. Obviously with his crown, face mask, the beautiful sword, and then the rest of his body details. He is the legendary, so I'm pretty happy that I pulled him for this drawing. If it was just all Yungus, it'd be a pretty boring pack if it was just Yungus. As much as I think he's very cute, 2 of him is already quite a lot. So I've also decided to only draw 1 of him just to keep the page a bit neater, I think. So my vibe for this drawing is that Zacian, I'm sure if I say it 4 or 5 different ways, I'll get at least one of them right, is protecting them with his sword while they're sleeping or just resting next to him, with Maytang also there because he's quite like a metal looking Pokemon. They're taking guard of the smaller Pokemon. So I'm just using the symmetry tool here for the sword so that it keeps its direction and consistency with the lines. So just going through and fixing those up a bit. So for some Zacian facts, as customary, whenever I draw Pokemon, I like to read some facts for everyone. He is a fairy type legendary from Generation 8. Obviously the Pokemon Sword version, because he is holding a sword in this image. There are also 2 different forms for Zacian. Obviously the normal, and this one on screen is the crowned sword form, which is Fairy Steel, when it is holding a rusted sword, which is an item in the game. So the differences between the regular form and the crowned sword form is obviously the sword in its mouth. It has that beautiful crown, and it also gains some golden wings, along with a few other small design changes, but the colorway still stays the same. The shiny colorway is kind of a light teal color, maybe like a cyan, like a Zacian. And you weren't able to get the shiny in game because it is a legendary. However, in October and November you could get a code for the shiny Zacian and Zamazenta which is the Shield legendary, from GameStop to get a distribution code for the shiny variant. As for Zacian's Pokédex entries, the regular form, which is the Hero of Many Battles form, in Sword, the Pokédex states, known as a legendary hero, this Pokemon absorbs metal particles, transforming them into a weapon it uses to battle. And in the Shield Pokédex, it states, this Pokemon has slumbered for many years. Some say it's Zamazenta's elder sister, others say the two Pokemons are rivals. And then when it turns into the Crowned Sword form, which I am currently drawing, the Sword Pokédex says, now armed with a weapon, it is used in ancient times. This Pokemon needs only a single strike to fell even Gigantamax Pokemon. And in Shield, it says, able to cut down anything with a single strike. It became known as the Fairy King's Sword, and it inspired awe in friend and foe alike. And you might notice something a little bit interesting there. So legendaries are genderless, all of them are, but in one of the Pokédex entries it said that Zacian was, I guess, presumed to be the elder sister of the other legendary. So is it genderless, or is that just a folk tale that it is a female sister? Now that I'm done with the sword and the crown of this Pokemon, I'm moving on to its body and wings. There's also a few kind of ribbony, scarf-like details in the crowned sword form, so we'll be adding those as well. I just want to make sure that they do not interfere with the other Pokemon in the drawing, so most of this will probably be behind Salazzle. I'm just drawing the features for consistency, so when they're erased it looks like they follow the same trajectory, and it doesn't look disjointed. Speaking of Salazzle, let's move on to some Salazzle facts. It evolves from a female Salandit at level 33. As I'm aware, and as my quick little Google search says, there's no evolution for male Salandit at this point in time. Salazzle was introduced in Generation 7, and it also appears in Gen 8 and Gen 9. Just a quick pause on the Salazzle facts. I finished off the line art for Zacian with some wobbly legs because most of those will be behind other Pokemon, so I didn't want to focus too much time on those details. And I've also just cut to doing the faces on the Execute. This drawing took around 20 hours, so I didn't want to cram the entire drawing into this video because it would be far too long. But I do love Execute's little faces. I find them very cute, so I included that. But for Salazzle, in the Sun Pokemon Pokédex, it says, for some reason only females have been found. It creates a reverse harem of male Salandit that it lives with. And then in Moon, filled with pheromones, its poisonous gas can be diluted to use in the production of luscious perfumes. And then in Gen 8, the Sword Pokédex reads, only female Salazzle exist. They emit a gas laden with pheromones to captivate male Salandit. And in Shield, the winner of competitions between Salazzle is decided by which one has the most male Salandit with it. So they're kind of like a popular girl in the wild with Salandits. So now moving on to the line art for Metang or Metang. I've only ever really played the Pokemon games, and I've seen a little bit of Indigo League, so I'm not actually sure how to pronounce most of these Pokemon, so feel free to correct me. As for some Metang info, it's a dual type Steel Psychic Pokemon, and it evolves from Beldum and then further evolves into Metagross. It was introduced in Generation 3. The Ruby Pokédex reads, when two Beldum fuse together, Metang is formed. The brains of Beldum are joined by a magnetic nervous system. By linking its brains magnetically, this Pokemon generates strong psychokinetic power. And similar in Sapphire and Emerald. However, Emerald states, the claws tipping its arms pack through the destructive power to tear through thick iron sheets as if they were silk. It flies at over 60 miles per hour. And for our metric users, such as myself, 60 miles per hour is about 96.5 kilometers per hour. So he's a speedy boy, like a car on a motorway or a highway, just speeding on down like a little race car. And a fact from the Gen 5 Pokédex, which is black and white, it says its steel body wouldn't be scratched if it collided with a jet. So he's strong and fast, which is kind of rare for Pokemon. They're either really fast but a bit weak, or they're really strong but they're quite slow. And for some Execute facts, it evolves into Executor. And then also in the Alolan region, it will evolve into an Alolan Executor with a leaf stone, which looks kind of like a palm tree, which is pretty fitting for a Hawaii-themed region. Execute was also introduced in Gen 1, red, blue, and then yellow. So to read some fun Pokédex facts for you, in red and blue, the Pokédex entry states, often mistaken for eggs. When disturbed, they quickly gather and attack in swarms. And then in yellow, it says, the heads attract each other and spin around. There must be 6 heads for it to maintain balance. Then in Gen 2, it says the shell is very durable. Even if it cracks, it can survive without spilling the contents, which is why they often have cracks on their shells. And in Silver, using telepathy only they can receive, they always form a cluster of 6 Execute. Moving on to the Gen 6 Pokédex for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the Pokédex states, this Pokemon consists of 6 eggs that form a closely knit cluster. The 6 eggs attract each other and spin around. When cracks increasingly appear on the eggs, Execute is closer to evolution. And then in Gen 8, the Shield Pokédex entry says, these Pokemon get nervous when they're not in a group of 6. The minute even one member of the group goes missing, Execute becomes cowardly. So from this, it sounds like each individual egg is an Execute, but the plural for 6 Execute is also Execute. Like sheep, you know, I have 4 sheep instead of sheeps, I guess. And just looking at my drawing here, I'm just making sure that Metang is in front of Zacian. And you might be able to get a sneak peek of some of the others that I've done up. So all the line art is complete, and I'm just going to focus on a very simple background for this project. So just simple green grass, blue sky kind of feeling. And then we'll go into colouring the 7 Pokemon, if you're counting Execute as one individual Pokemon. So now just skipping forward to the colours done, and these were the 7 Pokemon cards I originally pulled. So we've got Cherubi, Salazzle, Execute, Yungos sleeping in the corner, Skither or Skyther, and Metang up here. And finally, Zacian in the middle, the Sword Legendary. So this has been my first pack-to-page piece. If you want to see more like it, please let me know. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you again next time. Have a good day!